Dobbs is, like 5'10", 210 pounds. He's a burly guy, skilled with boxing. He's a fighter. He's got big, strong hands. He got big working man hands. So if he grabs you, you're gonna know it.
Working gloves. Yeah, his boots and equipment is a little more tattered than someone like Donovan. Like Dobbs is more of one of those like someone like my dad who might leave the house with an outfit that he doesn't really care what other people think of it. It's just for function. So it might be like cargo pants and a tool belt. For my dad, it's really the same thing with Dobbs. He's going to have just equipment basically for
he's
the
scrappy.
job.
And he's scrappy. He's ready to get busy at any given moment, as you see with the Dybbuk later on. Like, he doesn't care, bro. He doesn't need much. Like, if a war breaks out, he's not running back for a gun. He's just gonna get busy with whatever he got in him. You know what I mean?
Character influenced each other's family. You had said that Donovan named his kid after Dobbs, and Dobbs' son also has some different traits that are probably attributed to being close to Donovan. He's a little more streamlined. He's a little more like Dobbs' son is more like,
he's more refined than his dad is. Like, his dad is real gruff too. Like, even the way he speaks. We always spoke about, like, if we got to hear him speak, he's talking like he's not in slang, but he's not very pronounced. Like, he's like what do you want? Like, yeah, bro, like, yeah, like, yeah, thank you, thanks. Like, thanks, yeah, thanks a lot, thanks a ton. All right, buddy. Like, he's like one of those guys. You know what I mean?
He's so far removed from the political stuff that he's just no nonsense, business, oriented, not business like the business world, but the business at hand, the task at hand.
Yeah. If we had to compare him to somebody in our modern day, I think he would be like an army mechanic. You know what I mean? With like 20 years in, maybe seen 2 tours.
And in some other country, right? Like embedded in some other country.
He's no joke, man. That's my guy, Dobbs. Jon Dobbes, man.
Definitely a survivor, like a lot of people in our story.
Yo,
definitely
I can't lie, man. Looking at all these little panels of him and his face looking all gruff, and he's in the moment. I'm about to well up, bro. I'm about to well up. My man here, we pumped life into this guy over here, man. Yo, you're gonna well up, yo. Oh man, look, that's how it happens, folks. That's how it happens. Dobbs was there for all the births of Donovan's kids, and he could say, "Yo, never forget, I touched all you, I held all your kids before you did." Just show that he has that much heart, bro. Like, he's a grown ass tough guy, but he's still a sucker for a newborn. You know what I mean? Like, yo, it's my boy's kids. Like, I want to hold these kids. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I held all your kids before you even had a hand on them or something. Dobbs, man, just an all around good guy, man. Just an all around good guy. Oh, Dobbs, man.
But whenever I get a chance, I'm putting a halo on Dobbs. Like, I have a bunch of shots for Dobbs where he's got like a halo around.
Oh, nice.
Just because
I always had this scene in my head, a panel in my head where they're walking and talking, just like kind of like how him and his father were doing it. Dobbs Jr. talking about, yo, what should I do now? What should I do this? Do you think I should do? Like, he keeps asking like all these random questions that he would ask his dad, whatever the fuck. He'll say, like, he comes to the point, he turns to me, faces him. He's like, yo, you can like step up and be to me what your father was to me, shit like that. And like Dobbs Jr. was looking at him, he's like, yo, I'm not my father. And then Donovan's like, yo, I'm not your father either. You know what I'm saying? Like don't ask me these fucking questions. Either you step up and figure it out, or just get the fuck out the way. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a stone cold statement, like, yo, I'm not your father either. And I think at the same time, it's kind of we can draw it in like a Luke Skywalker type of way, just like just kind of be funny, like in between us, like you know how like he still might be standing there fixing something, looking at him, like instead of saying no, he's just looking at him like like fuck, you didn't have to be so hard with me. You know what I'm saying? That's fucked up. Like we never gave him like a birthplace or an upbringing or schooling or training. We never officially stated anything that he's done, but we do know that he's big on agriculture. Like he's taking a liking to plants, and he's kind of he has a big hand in how in helping Donovan produce all the plants and fruit and vegetation that they did in the negative degree weather, right? And he's also a mechanic. Like he's a mechanic. He fixes a lot of shit. He has that pack that he also uses to fight. He's like we used to say he's one of the best at like manipulating that package. So for instance, if he was in that space scene that we just spoke about last week, he probably would have done something a lot more intricate than just that big ass crowbar that she made. You know what I mean? Because he's had years of experience with that type of technology, and he's been with Donovan the longest. Like he's Donovan's right hand man. That's his boy. It's Donovan and Dobbs, old Dobbs and Donovan. That's how I've always seen it. Like when they were young and he was in the caves trying to like work off that nuclear power and shit, he was right there with him. Dobbs is that dude. Dobbs is that guy.
He's like somebody that works for Donovan, like works on Donovan's side, but I feel like Donovan also is like looks up to Dobbs a little bit. You know, he's like the only one around that Donovan can
confide in, really, too. Like he confides in him. Like Dobbs probably knows all his secrets. He's probably the only person that knows all of his secrets, including Albatross Junction and all the shit that's going on in there. Like he's the only person that knows about all that cloning and growing of their own fucking species and shit like that.
He could be trusted with those secrets. Like Donovan knows that he could be trusted with
And plus, I feel like Dobbs has been around Donovan so long that he's really the only one that sees his real intention. Whereas it looks like he's just playing with, like he's playing God and he's fucking up and he's making a lot of mistakes. Dobbs knows his intention is to really save the planet ultimately he wants to save the planet on a bigger scale, you know?
Donovan probably sees Dobbs as like his like military brother who's like family. I think.
Yeah.
The other people are less like that.
He's closer to a sibling, you know what I mean? Well, he has his own wife and kids, but Dobbs is like his family, like he grew up with him, you know what I mean? Dobbs keeps Donovan grounded. You know what I mean? Like he's like his heart in a way. Like he's the heart. Donovan is the brains and sort of like the brawn when it comes to all the military tactics. But Dobbs it's all heart. He keeps him grounded. He keeps his head, at the right level.
I see it that way too. So, whereas like it's his moral center kind of looking toward Dobbs to see like how Dobbs behaves and like what Dobbs would approve of. And that's kind of like where he steers like things. He steers.
Definitely. That's kind of like the conversation we had when I was coming up with how he might look. And the first one I did, he was too old. Remember, he looked way too old. He looked real like fragile and hunchback. He looked old, and I made him a little younger, but he looked like maybe he was still mid 50s, maybe. He looked like an old Batista, and he was like pointing like onward, like yonder. Remember that was? I think we said that in one of the early episodes. How he's like just he's the man giving him the right direction to go, and you know what I mean. So he's just kind of standing out, was pointing out like, "Yo, we're doing this, we're going that, we're doing that. Yeah, I agree with that plan. I disagree with this plan."
When he does see something, right? The other people might be more like yes men.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody's a yes man around him. Everyone is, even his family.
And speaking of his family, he probably spent more time with Donovan than his own son Dobbs did, and vice versa. So Dobbs and Donovan spent more time with each other than their respective families. Like Dobbs has a son. Now we don't really know what like where the mother is. I don't have a version of her in the volume that we're completing right now, but we do have his son is in there. So I don't know if she's probably dead or something. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But we have the son of Dobbes, we have a family for Donovan, but they probably spend more time with each other, especially over the past
absolutely
10 or
and
so years.
doesn't Donovan have a son who's autistic that he named after Dobbs? Named him John, right?
Yeah, there you go.
So Donovan's autistic son is even named John, and he comes into play too later. This is a big insight right here. He comes into play later, that son. So Dobbs, it's just known like they have their little army, their little troops and things like that, but a lot of things are unsaid. A lot of things don't have to be explained. So like when Donovan's away, Dobbs is in command. You know what I mean? Like people look to him for answers. I mean, they're not running up to him calling yes sir, no sir, aye sir, none of that stuff. But they're like, yo, you know what? Go ask Dobbs. Go ask Dobbs. Dobbs will know. Go, did Dobbs approve this? Make sure Dobbs knows this is going on. Like, because he's holding down the fort when Donovan's not there. And it's just understood because they're just together that much.
If someone can find Dobbs, they can probably also find Donovan.
Dobbs is the man. The more we spoke about him, the more his character grew on me. And it's weird because like we're making these characters up, but they kind of like when you start making a book, which I'm finding out as we make this book, they kind of grow into their own in a way. You know what I mean? Like it sounds weird to say, but they kind of grow on their own. It just happens. They become sort of like not skewed, but just different than what you anticipated them to be.
It's like before we even figured out the fate of Dobbs, I think we both really, really liked Dobbs. So even though like we know what happens to Dobbs at the end of the volume, or at the end of this little mini series that we're doing right now, we know what happens to him, but that's not really what's making us endearing to Dobbs. What we really like about Dobbs is his personality, his loyalty, like his traits, and the type of guy that he is. Like we're not really skewed by knowing the future of Dobbs. So that's an interesting point too, to like we both kind of found out we really liked this character, kind of above some of the other characters. I mean, just because is it just because he's like nicer?
He doesn't have any real agenda. He just does his job to the fullest, and he makes sure Donovan doesn't go over the deep end. You know what I mean? But let's not forget too that like this is the making of a comic book, right? So like we started kind of like we had a couple of ideas down. We had the general idea down, but then we figured out all the specific ideas like right here on YouTube, right? So right here on these episodes. So like all his characteristics were figured out as we went along. That's how like he grew on us in a different way. Like it was like he's just a dope character. He's dope. I wouldn't mind going back in the future and doing like a backstory on him.
He was one of the first characters we drew live as well.
Yeah, he was.
And I think it's a great character to start for a character profile, because I do like to see the point of view sometimes from the second in command. Like earlier you had said that Dobbs is like the second in command to Donovan, at least in Quantum Heights, where they govern over there in Quantum Heights. That's what they fight for. That's what their military is about, defending and fighting for, is Quantum Heights. So you have Dobbs and Donovan, who are both working for the same goals, really. And that makes them a powerful duo, because there are some other characters in the surrounding areas, like for instance the Pike Berg duo, if you want to call it that, from the past, from before our story starts. There was a war, and we have Pike Berg versus Quantum Heights at one part of the war over sun satellites, which is a piece of technology in our story that they basically really need this technology to run a city. It's a fake star, so you have like sunlight coming from a satellite which warms the city, and it's only way to get running water and stuff like that. So you have these cities fighting over it, these militaries fighting over it, and the previous administration, I guess you could say, for Pike Berg was a duo who didn't quite work as well together as Donovan and Dobbs worked together. So that's part of their success too, I think, is the fact that they are, friends and also have the same goals. So that makes them different from some of the other groups who are vying for power, when some of the other groups are also fighting within themselves for whatever reason. Like for instance, at Pike Berg, you had a character, Xeret, who was the leader, and you had the second in command, like the Dobbes version of, or the version of Dobbes over in Pike Berg, is named Mackenzie. And he was also had a similar kind of personality, a similar type of guy to Dobbes, but his superior was not. They kind of clashed, I would say. They weren't a good match for each other. And
yeah, to me, it sounds like his superior didn't really respect him fully. Like he kind of just was forced to stand up when the dude, lost his life.
Quantum Heights, where Dobbs is from, is the winner of that war for the satellite. So they're doing a lot better than some of the other nearby cities and stuff. And they have a lot more technology and a lot more materials and stuff. We'll do some other videos about the different technology that the factions have. This is about 1,000 years into the future, so we see a lot of weird technology, and we'll go into some detail about what the technology is. But as you were saying, I think before the video started, was that Dobbes is really in control of these construction kits, which are one of the main tools in the world. And he's also, good mechanic, which is part of using the construction kit. He's really, really good with that technology.
Yeah. He'll fix anything, right? Like if any equipment breaks down, he's just gonna jump in and make it happen. He's gonna make it happen, make it work. When I was drawing his clothes as well, I kind of wanted him to look like a just down in dirt. Like, okay, so we made Donovan look like regal in a sense, right? Where he had a nice outfit. He looked like a military guy. But Dobbes looks like he's working. He looks like a blue collar worker, like a tough, just from the gutter type attitude guy. No nonsense, straight shooter, makes it happen by any means necessary. And that's pretty much it. He is who he is. He's not gonna get dressed up to try to impress you because he doesn't give a fuck about anybody but the job and the task at hand. You know what I mean?
I think his outfit says that you have his outfit made up of like browns and blues, which in a sense you could attribute to like coveralls for
exactly. Like he
workers.
has knee pads, bro. I'll put knee pads on him because he's an old man. And he's always working on shit. You know what I'm saying? He's just in his head. He's like, might as well keep these fuckers on because I'm always working. I'm not gonna keep taking them on and off.
That's why there's that one scene in the first issue where he uses the construction kit just as they're walking and talking, as Donovan and Dobbes are approaching the facility where they keep a lot of their experiments and stuff. So Dobbes is getting ready to enter the facility with his construction kit, and that kind of morphs and turns into whatever kind of equipment he needs, almost like the Tony Stark Iron Man outfit when it gets to one of those later marks exactly that has like the nanotech in it, where it kind of comes out of a suitcase or something. That happens in our story where machines that's like a nanotech come out of a suitcase and become some kind of tool that you need for the job at hand. But it's got to be something that you can think of almost like a Green Lantern ring, can turn your thoughts into a hard matter like substance and be real in the world. That's like what the construction kit is, but mixed in with mechanisms and mechanics where it could be also lights and tools and soldering and lasers and different things that the construction kit can become for the job at hand. Just depends what you can imagine or whatever schematic you could pull up, because there's some schematics in the construction kit that are just like automatic or like default, so you can pick like this is like a soldering job or like a welding job, and it will configure itself. But if you have a different idea or you want to combine stuff, or in certain scenes in the second issue where Dobbes is battling a monster in our story called the Dybbuk, Dobbes turns his construction kit into some weapons, so that's a possibility too.
Also, I think when we were talking about his character, I think we kind of credited him for like making those orbs, like those orbs. You said they might have been like floating around for heat, but he kind of hacked into them and made them like he can manipulate them in a way to use them. Like in the fight that I'm drawing now, he's using them things in any way, shape, or form that he can. So like I remember when I was doing that shield, I was saying like he could hold like 4 of those orbs in here, maybe 2 just floating. He could just have 2 more come out. the first to kind of hack into those orbs and just use them anywhere he wanted, not just for heat. Like he was using them as communication. He was using them as weapons. He could use them as like they can even turn into like some type of lasers or spears, or he can do anything with them.
Donovan, who's like the premier technological genius of the age. That's how we have Donovan set up, who's our main character, and who Dobbs is like main man is Donovan. I think when you're going to hang out with Donovan for 20 or 30 years, you're going to pick up a trick or two, like even if it's not your forte or not your talent. But in our world of survival, in Albatross Junction, where it's super cold, it's like negative 150, you know, people's eyes explode in being frozen and stuff like that if you don't have the right equipment. I think those type of situations, you know, make you almost like a Renaissance man, like you have to be, right? So every one of these people in the story, the reason why they have survived is because they can kind of do a lot with a little. I think that's a great like metaphor for what Dobbs is. It's like, especially in that fight with the Dybbuk, like Dobbs, he's kind of doing a lot with a little. Like his construction kit gets beaten up, gets broken up, but he still fights. He's still mechanically changing the orientation of the kit to battle throughout the story that you drew in issue 2. Is he's like rough and tumble with that Dybbuk, basically with the only weapons being a construction kit. It's not even meant to be a weapon in the first place.
Yeah, man. I think it's a good video.